These are movies that are the definition of this meme, where the villain is incredible, but the rest of the movie is really not so great. Immediately, Kung Fu Panda 3 comes to mind because this was easily the weakest of the franchise before we got the fourth one, but it's way worse than the first two. I don't care about most of the storylines going on, everything with Po finding out, oh, there's all these other pandas and my panda family. I'm sorry, I just don't care about it. Then as you're watching this just painfully mid and mediocre movie, all of a sudden Kai shows up and the entire movie switches because he is such an incredible villain. Not only does he have an amazing design, I love the character motivations, J.K. Simmons as the voice actor. Like, I'm not exaggerating, he literally bumps up the movie almost an entire 1-star rating. Everything between him and Po is incredible and just elevates this to a new level. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is another massive example of this. This was such a downgrade from the first two movies, and it's just not as funny. We don't have the ex-cons like Luis in it. It loses a lot of the charm of those first two Ant-Man films. Then every time the movie switches to a scene with Jonathan Majors as Kang, the movie gets 10 times better. His performance is so good as his character in both Loki and this one. Like, seriously, every time we watch a scene with Kang and everything between him and Janet, I was actually super captivated in the movie, and I thought he was really a menacing villain. And then we cut back to the Ant family, and I'm like, I could not care about this any less. Please get me back to watching Kang. Because while I still enjoy the villains of the first two Ant-Man movies, Kang is easily the best Ant-Man movie villain we've ever gotten, and it's just sad that he's in the worst Ant-Man movie. It is kind of a shame that we see him going out absolutely sad and just getting defeated by an army of ants, and now we're never going to see Kang again because he's been replaced by Doctor Doom. I do think Kang would have been a good villain. It's kind of a shame, but hey, hopefully they can cook with Doctor Doom to make up for it. I might as well stay on the MCU for one more movie before getting to other ones with Thor: Love and Thunder, because this is maybe the textbook example of this with gore. Christian Bale is one of my favorite actors, and personally I think he's one of the best working actors we still have. This is another example of the movie being completely different when gore is on screen versus off screen, because when you're watching the rest of the characters, it is just the most goofy slapstick comedy that isn't really that funny because every single line is pretty much a joke and going for a punchline, so you don't let anything really build up. The emotional moments that they're really trying to hit with Jane's cancer storyline don't get time to breathe. But every time you're watching a gore scene, it is legitimately like almost haunting and super menacing. It's a super serious tone of a movie, and the scenes of him fighting against Thor and stuff, like, it's completely different than the rest of the movie. It feels like literally two movies sliced together, and I wish we were watching the gore movie instead. Gore is a major reason I'm so sad that the MCU is pretty much one and done with MCU villains. Characters like him and Killmonger would be incredible reoccurring villains to see over and over again, as you would if you were actually reading a comic book or in most other movie series, but the MCU decides, hey, we're gonna have them in one movie and just never utilize this incredible character again. Super Mario Bros. Movie really fits into this for me. I don't think the movie's bad in any way, shape, or form. It's just kind of like a very average 6 or 7 out of 10. It's kind of not very memorable in a lot of ways and more of just a generic story with the Mario characters in it. Like I said, I don't think it's terrible. I'm able to forgive Chris Pratt's voice acting as Mario in this. It's just kind of meh. The thing I think that everybody remembers about this movie and is what really elevated it for so many people is Jack Black as Bowser. Jack Black is an absolute blast in pretty much every movie he's in, and seeing him in this role just giving it his all and just pure insane ridiculousness was just hilarious. This movie was pretty well received by a lot of audiences, and critics actually thought it was pretty decent too. I'm not kidding you. I think it would have been a lot worse received or just viewed as way more of an average film if you didn't have Jack Black in this film and him doing things like singing the Peaches song. Just took an otherwise kind of forgettable movie and made it super memorable. Batman and Robin is easily the worst movie I brought up on this list so far. This is genuinely just a bad movie overall. It's so incredibly goofy, which yes, I understand it was trying to do, but I'm sorry, it doesn't work. Everything with our main trio of Batman, Batgirl, and Robin is just so unbelievably stupid and just does not make sense. George Clooney can barely get through reading any lines of the script without just looking like he's gonna break out and laugh in the middle of a scene. And you have things like Mr. Freeze saying, "What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age," which is one of those lines that's so incredibly bad that I actually love it, but he's not the reason this movie's on the list. I actually put Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy on this list. Now, yes, I would not say this is like an amazing top tier villain performance like I think some of these other ones on the list have been, but I do think this is actually a really good and fun villain performance in a otherwise terrible movie. She's again just playing into the borderline insane tone of this movie, but I think she actually does it in a way that works unlike almost everyone else in this film, and it's genuinely a performance you can look back on and say, hey, that was something really good in a movie that was just borderline unwatchable. And I really wish we just got a better Batman movie, or maybe if Keaton did one more and had this version of Poison Ivy in there, I think it would have been incredible, because obviously Uma Thurman is a great actor. She showed that in this movie, and she just was put in a absolutely horrible film. Before the next one, take 1 second to leave a comment of another movie you think is really mediocre minus the villain being incredible, and go follow me on Letterboxd at Vets Movies. I'd really appreciate it. Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Men Tell No Tales is widely regarded as like the worst or one of the worst Pirates movies, and I honestly don't understand that at all. I actually think this movie is a very enjoyable film. I give it like a 7 out of 10. While it's not all because of Javier Bardem as Captain Armando Salazar, I do think he is a really good villain that does give this movie a way higher rating in my book than it would if it just had any other actor just giving you some regular villain performance. I think he's actually really good in this film. Again, the movie is kind of utterly ridiculous, especially in the third act, and some of the stuff that he's doing is insane, but I still think it's a really good villain performance in a movie that everybody else seems to really hate. Never convinced me that Attack of the Clones is a good movie. I think this movie has so many different problems, one of it being George's classic, just super wooden dialogue. I think it actually works in movies like Revenge of the Sith and The Phantom Menace, and this one it doesn't, and it kind of completely kills the entire Padme Anakin romance for me because the lines they are saying to each other are just so unbelievably terrible and cringeworthy. I think the biggest offense this movie has is the criminal underutilization of the incredible Christopher Lee as Count Dooku. You had one of the all-time just great actors. He's so good in these dramatic roles, and Star Wars is just this space drama. He fits in perfectly. Count Dooku is such a great character in both this movie, and as we've learned with the Clone Wars and Tales of the Jedi, there was so much there with this character. And yet we like barely give Dooku anything to do. He doesn't have nearly enough screen time in this movie. Half of it's fighting a stupid CGI Yoda. Then in Revenge of the Sith, he's killed off in like the first literally opening scene of the movie. It's such a waste of an incredible villain, and I genuinely just wish we got to see him have like literally half of the screen time of Attack of the Clones. It would have made the movie way better. As I said, comment down below a movie that is the exact definition of this meme in your opinion. Hit that like button if you haven't already, and make sure to click down below to watch another video on my channel. I'd really appreciate it.